Welcome to day 3 of 5 of Precon Power-Ups with the Nitpicking Nerds.
This time, we're upgrading the Simic Precon Quantum Quandrix with a budget of only $50.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, Beezy, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds, here for you with daily content. I don't even know how many days in a row we've done this. Maybe I'll keep track for the next one. But go to the Discord where you can talk to us and play games with us. Go to the Patreon where you can support the show monetarily. And go to the little friggin' subscribe button where you can subscribe because, like I said, daily content.
Daily content. So what we're doing today is Precon Power-Ups. That means we take our $50 budget, okay? And we take some cards out, we put some cards in, and we make this deck. So it'll be $90 for an awesome deck. Before we get into any cutting or anything or game plan, we gotta know who the commander is.
The commander is Adrix and Nev, Twincasters. 2 green-blue for a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard with Ward 2. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many are created instead. This deck's game plan is to use Adrix and Nev to build a gigantic board state and create powerful tokens.
Yes, and the way we're going to win with that after we make all these tokens, we're going to leverage them all, the enormous board state and presence, to either attack, boost their power, or any other sort of thing that we can do.
All right, now comes the part where we get to actually change the deck. First thing we're going to do, cut the cards that just have absolutely nothing to do with our strategy of creating big, powerful, unique tokens, which includes Ruxa, Patient Professor. Actually does work with regular tokens like Sapperlings or something, but we're trying to copy creatures in this deck, as you'll see, so it has basically no text. Deeka, Fractal Theorist, that's not going to help us either. It makes fractals. I cut almost every card that makes fractals. We just don't care. Some of them have no synergy, and I'm fine just getting rid of them, even though there was kind of a +1/+1 counter sub-theme in this deck. That's mostly gone now. Spawning Kraken. We're not playing Krakens, Octopuses, Serpents, or Leviathans, and I just don't understand why they keep printing these. Eventually, there will be a deck, because this card is good in that deck. It's not good in this deck.
Yeah, next, Fractal Harness. So here's my theory. This doubles counters, and it's an equipment. Here's my theory. Okay. When they originally made this card, it was actually doubling season. It actually did counters. And then they realized that was too good, and they removed it, and I left the remnants of this counters deck is still in the deck. Get it out of here. We're not a counters deck.
Okay, yeah, and we're also not a Cassetto Orochi Archmage deck. It says make your creatures unblockable. But if they're a snake, they get bigger. There's like no snakes. There's actually Coiling Oracles in this deck. So there's one snake, I think.
What is that?
I don't know.
Snake commander? We don't want a snake to get out of here.
There was a couple unblockable things. There's nothing we want to make unblockable. Arashi, the Sky Asunder, is one of the worst cards in this deck. It's like a Champions of Kamigawa card that deals it like hurricanes if you discard it, and then it like taps to hurricane. What does that have to do with tokens or anything? This card is like basically unplayable in any commander deck.
It just doesn't make any sense. Why did they throw it in? It's literally what this category is. It's cards that shouldn't be in the deck. Some of it just doesn't make any sense.
Right, like no matter what direction you take this deck, you could probably cut these 8 cards. Also, Geometric Nexus, it cares about playing spells, and then it can go, you tap like 6 mana, and then you can make one big fractal token. I have little to no interest in that, especially when we're trying to copy creatures. You can't copy a fractal token. It's a 0/0.
Yeah, and Managorger Hydra, which is a literal another remnant of clearly the counters theme that they were going for before. I'm telling you, this card had that extra line of text that doubled counters as well.
The thing that was weird is there's so many counters cards that say it or give it, and then there's like 2 or 3 payoffs in the whole deck. So there was so little reason to be +1/+1 counters. They took out like every +1 counter card. We're making tokens. You could go play any other Simic deck for +1/+1 counters. This is a token deck. We're going to make tokens.
Yeah, actually, I do. That card, the card that we cut, the Fractal Harness, I think that card's cool. Yes. I think it has a lot of cool homes and a lot of uses in counters decks. We're not a counters deck. So now that we've cut the cards that don't fit the game plan, we got to put some cards in that, well, they fit the game plan. They're doing what we want. Scoot Swarm. Love this card. It makes an insect when a land enters, but if you have 6 lands, it makes a copy of itself. So this thing just gets out of control real quick in this deck.
Yeah, it already gets out of control real quick in any deck that can play landfall at a reasonable pace. It doubles each Scoot Swarm, makes 2 Scoot Swarms when you play a land. So if you have 3 Scoot Swarms and you play a land, you get 6. Yeah, with Adrix and Nev.
You go right up to 9, and then you play one, and you get 18 more. Okay.
Yes, and if you're in any sort of position where you have fetch lands you can throw in this deck, stick them in there because Squirtswarm's going to go ham with them. There's also Skyclave Relic. I cut the Signets out of this deck because we have no use for them. But Skyclave Relic, I thought was at least decent enough for $2 to throw in. It makes 2 copies of itself, and they're all indestructible. So you're going to get 4 copies. That's 5 mana of indestructible nature that with Adrix and Nev. And I just thought, that's so much better. The upside is like 10 million miles higher than a Signet. It's the only mana rock in this deck.
You don't want mana rocks in your green decks. That's the basic of it. But when you have some synergy that is cool like this, you can do cool stuff that's interesting. Stop putting Signets in your green decks.
I promise you, maybe we'll do a short or a video on it, but Signets in green is almost never okay.
Yes.
Not even once. It's like a drug commercial.
Not even once. So Mystic Reflection is super cool. You target something on the battlefield already. And then whenever a creature or planeswalker, 1 or more, enters the battlefield, they enter as a copy of that. So if you have something 2 entering at the exact same time, say with, the ability that is doubling things, so 2 will always enter at one time, well, they're going to enter as something big, awesome, and scary.
The best thing on the field. Or use this as a counterspell. You have janky tokens or maybe a Wood Elves in play. Somebody plays their giant Razaketh monster, and you go, all right, you can just have this 1/1, and your guy's going to sit and play, do nothing.
Yeah, Razaketh is a Scoot Swarm. Like, sure, Scoot Swarm's good. It's not Razaketh.
It's certainly not a Razaketh. They are good together.
That's true.
So we're also going to get into the part of the deck where we're making copies of really good creatures. So that's Vizier of Many Faces. Originally, it's a clone, but then when you embalm it, you get 2 of the best thing in play. Cackling Counterpart only targets your things, but has flashback, so that's 4 copies of the best thing on your field total. Quasi-Duplicate also flashes back, only targets your things, but that's only 6 mana for a potential 4 copies of something.
Something really cool about Vizier of Many Faces, because the tokens come in separately, they can be different things if you want them to.
Oh, yeah.
So you can choose this Vizier to be that and this Vizier to be something else. Like, so if there's a legend, you can get one of the legend and one of something else.
Ooh, I like that a lot. There's also Essica's Chariot from Kaldheim. It's like 40 cents. It enters and you make 2 cat tokens, which already doubles to 4. And then when it attacks, you get to clone one of your creature tokens, which will then make 2 of it. So whatever you're cloning and doing, you get 2 more. And the Chariot, as a little bit of gravy upside, it can survive a board wipe.
Yeah, I know. I think the Chariot's just a strong card. I think this card fits in the big token decks like Tristani. I think it just fits in that deck. Those kind of decks, it just fits in this deck. This might be a card that off a budget, even doing like a really strong like focus version, you might still keep this card because this card is very good in this deck.
Yeah, it's possible. I like the recovery from board wipes. I like the fact that you get something on the way in and next turn when you attack.
Yes, I think Essica's Chariot is just a card that even if you go up to like a 7/8, like it probably stops there, but if a 7/8 version of this deck, you're probably still playing it. That card's good.
Yeah, lastly, full flowering. Once we have the sweet token copies of the creatures, we're going to populate X times. So X is 3. We'll make 6 more of our best thing. You don't need too many of your best thing before you just win.
Full flowering is one of my least favorite card names. I hate it.
Full flowering.
It's
I don't know what that means.
Yep, me neither. All right, so now we've gotten the cards out that don't fit with the deck. We've thrown in some cards that do fit with the deck. But now we got to improve upon existing cards. They're doing the thing we want, but we can do it better because we have a $50 budget to work with.
Oh, yeah. We're still going to cut them. So what are some of the token generators that we cut from the deck?
Well, there's Hornet Nest. I think Hornet Nest is total butts. It's an 0/2 that blocks, and however much damage is dealt to it, you get that many 1/1 insects with that touch. No thank you. Hydra Broodmaster. I don't think this card's good.
It's so slow.
It's got monstrosity, and sure, it can go off. If you get to late game and you untap with it, it'll go off.
Kinda.
That's a long time.
If you have 9 mana, you can make 4/4s.
Ugh, that doesn't sound good at all. Desolate Twin, it just 2 10/10s, 3 10/10s for 10 mana.
It says no frills whatsoever. There's hardly any buttons or levers to pull. It's going to be the card that clogs up your opening hand and you just mulligan.
Crafted Cut Purse is a cool card, but not a good card. It basically steals tokens for yourself, but the problem with this is we can't rely on our opponents to make tokens. We just can't. You can't rely on your opponents to make tokens.
If basically this card just goes in some other deck that we're not building. It's not this deck. We also cut Biomathematician, no fractals, please. Hornet Queen, and what was the last one?
Spitting Image, which is It's way too expensive for a clone. It is kind of what we're trying to do.
It is, yeah.
There's just cheaper versions. Like we already went over the quasi duplicates, the Vizier many faces, and the
Cackling Counterpart.
And Cackling Counterpart. Those are all the same exact effect, but for cheaper.
Yeah, and there's 2 of them, so it already covers the retrace part. So we don't need that much. All right, and now we get to move on to the cards we actually added from this category. We got a bunch of them because we took out so many crappy +1/+1 counter cards that just don't belong here. So the first one, Arcane Artisan. This lets you make a token that's a copy of a giant creature, but you don't even have to go through the trouble of casting the creature in the first place. You just make it from your hand.
Yeah, you discard it or is it exile it?
It's draw, then exile, and then you just get the token until Arcane leaves. But even if Arcane leaves, you still get the token for the whole turn.
Yes. So any ETBs are really good with it.
We have lots.
Yeah, like Whirler Rogue, who enters and makes 2 1/1 Thopters.
Yes, and then you can tap 2 artifacts to make something unblockable. So there's a little bit of, if you have a giant token, hey, as an added bonus, Whirler Rogue can make 1 or 2. If you get 4 Thopters, creature's unblockable.
Yes, it's such a strange card, Whirler Rogue.
And if you, now I'm thinking about it, if you copy it, you get 2 Whirler Rogues, which then make 4 each.
We have Brood, Birth, Viper, which has Myriad. It attacks. You get a copy of it for each opponent, but we'll get 2 for each opponent because, well, we're going to have our commander out at all times. And when they deal damage, you draw cards.
Yeah, so if you have 3 opponents, 1 attacks, and then you're going to make 4.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 5 shots at drawing a card when they all hit.
Yes. These things aren't easy to block. They do have quite a bit of power toughness.
Well, especially if you start cloning it. If you clone it, now you're attacking with 2 that myriad off, and then there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 total.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's hard to block all of those. That's a lot of guys.
And you don't even care if anything dies. You're just going to draw like 8 cards off of it. Total craziness. Casted Cage Breakers. Here's a lot of tokens. When it attacks, you get 2/2s tapped and attacking for each creature in your graveyard. You got 6 creatures. All right, you get 12 2/2s that are tapped and attacking right now. That's 24 power at somebody's face.
22? That's literally half of someone's life total.
Yeah, Casted Cage Breaker is one of the ways we can potentially win this game. Mitotic Slime. I got inspiration from a card already in the deck, Reform, which says when it dies, you get a 3/3. When it dies, you get a 6/6. When it dies, you get a 9/9, which works insanely well with Adrix and Nev. But Mitotic Slime, slightly worse. When it dies, you get 2 2/2s that when they die, you get 2 1/1s. So double all that when you have Adrix and Nev, and it's just a bunch of power.
Yeah, you end up with 16 1/1s at the end of it. That's a lot of 1/1s.
Why do you just keep saying that numbers are big?
Because this deck is a big numbers deck. That's what's cool about it. I keep saying that it makes a lot of things because this is the ultimate go wide deck. Like, there's a lot of go wide decks but when you have your commander out, we're already making tokens all over. Just double it. And those numbers, when you start doubling, your numbers are huge.
Yeah, I believe it was Kevin Malone from The Office who once said, picture everything you've dreamed. Now, double it. That's the whole deck.
Yeah, and also...
What else we got?
I can be Kevin Malone also. I do the numbers.
Yeah, what else do we have in the deck? In the deck.
Actually, we have Zendikar's Royal and Spore Mound. Zendikar's Royal gives you 2/2s when the land enters, and you get 1/1 Saplings when Spore Mound's on the battlefield.
So 0 mana investment, you just slap them down, and then if/when you untap with them, you're just going to start pumping out 2, maybe 4 1/1s or 2/2s a turn. It's going to help you go wide, and it's not like, if I slam Zendikar's Royal and then play a land, and then play a Wood Elves, I have 5 creatures out with my commander. Do you want to board wipe that? There's nothing of substance there. It's just my commander.
There's just going to be bigger threats at the table, so they're not going to draw these targets. Sure, sometimes they're going to get blown up, but who's like, oh, I need to get rid of that Zendikar Royal right now?
I mean, if you have to board wipe every time there's 5 creatures on my field, you're going to run out real quick. There's also Sprout Swarm. It's 5 mana, basically, to make a 1/1 and then put it back to your hand. Well, with Adrix and Nev, we get 2 1/1s, and they could be used for the Convoke on the next Sprout Swarm. So you can potentially spend 3 mana, end of turn, spend 0 cards, and get like 8 1/1s.
We have God Pharaoh's Gift as the next card. 7 mana artifact, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you just pick a creature in your graveyard, exile it, and get a 4/4 version of it on the field. But when you get 2, because we have the copy, your Archimeder's great.
And I love that they're a little bit tougher to remove than normal with the ward too. Just extra little spice to make them a little bit more, you feel a little safer against spot removal. There's also Ominous Seas. I like this one. It has cycling, so if you draw 8 cards when it's out, you get a counter on it, and you can remove a counter to make an 8/8 Kraken. And you can do it at instant speed. So if you slap this early game, draw enough cards, play Adrix and Nev later, end step, all right, here's 2 8/8s, and I spent 2 mana on them.
Yeah, and this doesn't take any investment. It's gonna take up an early turn probably. You're probably just gonna play it on turn 2 when you don't have a ramp spell. Throw it down, wait, all of a sudden it's later game and there's 2 huge Krakens coming for you. Octopus.
Or you draw it late and you cycle it. This is what the difference is between the other cards we cut, where it's like, hey, here's a Kraken, and if it hits somebody, you get a 9/9. It's like, here's a 2-mana enchantment that is a complete redraw if it doesn't do anything.
Yes. Yeah, you can just cycle this one away and get something new.
Yeah, these next 2 are big players in the deck. Caller of the Claw is a 3-mana 2/2 flash. When it enters, you get a 2/2 for each creature that died under your control this turn. And Fresh Meat is the same thing, but it's an instant, and it gives you 3/3s, and it counts all creatures from all fields. These are going to be our insurance from a board wipe. So even if Adrix and Nev bite the dust, we can go, all right, I'm going to rebuild, get all my stuff back. I didn't really care what they were that much anyway.
And these can also be used proactively.
With Nev out.
Yes, if we have them out. We have sack outlets within the deck. You can sack your whole board, and because you're going to get double, you're going to double the number of creatures you had on board.
Oh, we'll get to that, trust me. But for now, we're going to change the ramp up a little bit. And like we mentioned, we cut Simic Signet, we cut Arcane Signet. I also cut Rampant Growth, Kodama's Reach, and Nissa's Pilgrimage because we want creatures in play to copy, so anything that's not a creature can just go. We're going to replace the spell ramp with creature ramp like Wood Elves, Elvish Rejuvenator. I also have Springbloom Druid, and then the spice that was like literally the last minute addition, Risen Reef. Didn't think about this, but there's only 2 or 3 other elementals in the deck, and there's Zendikar's Royal it works with, but when you clone it, you get 2 more Risen Reefs, giving you 3 Risen Reefs, which gives you 6 triggers.
Yes, so that's a lot of triggers. You're gonna draw 6 cards, and all of them that are land will go and play.
I think that's a good interaction.
No, it is. It definitely is.
Yes. So how about the win conditions?
So as always, for our win conditions, our main one isn't going to be combat. We're going to do combat, and this deck does combat well because it goes so wide. But we want to have other ways to win, as every Nitpicking Nerds deck does. So we're going to have huge board states. You got those Scoot Swarms going crazy, the Risen Reefs, or Reef Worm rather, going completely insane. Copy them, make all these tokens. So you have a ton of power. If you have Alter Dimension out, you just mill everyone out. I think, isn't it, how much does Reform mill for if we have Alter Dimension?
Commander, Reform, Token Clone, Alter Dimension is game. Reform with Adrix and Nev out creates 102 power. So that's 102 cards milled with Alter Dimension. That kills somebody. Someone is dead now. If you make a token copy of it, you'll get 2, and that's 306 cards total. That's enough cards, no matter what, actually, to just mill everybody out completely.
Yes, so a Reform can just do it by itself. We've already talked about all the ways we're going to make tokens. There's 1,000,002 ways, especially with if you have the Alter Dimension out and Fresh Meat. You sacrifice your whole team, you Fresh Meat, and now we get really cool here. You put this in. I'm going to let you finish it.
All right, so we had to go kind of deep because with creature board state attack combos, I don't want to have to wait to untap. That's a little dubious for me. So I want some way to gain haste. There is one budget way to give haste. It's Crashing Drawbridge. Kind of a janky card, but it's actually going to be the difference between winning and losing a lot of the time. So you're going to have Crashing Drawbridge in play. That's pretty easy. I don't really think too many people are going out of the way to kill it. And you can make token copies if you really want to. So you're going to sacrifice everything in play that you have, except for Adrix and Nev and Crashing Drawbridge. Fresh Meat. So you get double that many as 3/3s. And then you just slam End-Raze Forerunners, and they're all 5/5s with haste, and everyone's dead.
Well, they don't have haste yet. You have to put the drawbridge down.
Yeah, you put down the drawbridge, they can all run through.
Hundreds of creatures running over the drawbridge.
Implying you were playing in a castle the whole time.
Another cool thing that you can do with this actually is way cooler. You can do the whole sacrifice thing, and then if you have an End-Raze Forerunners already in play, you can Mystic Reflection, then cast the Fresh Meat. They're all End-Raze Forerunners. You attack for 10 million.
You don't need the drawbridge if you do that.
Yeah, you don't need the drawbridge in that case. So
because they all have haste already.
Yeah, you have End-Raze Forerunners in the field, Mystic Reflection copying it, Fresh Meat, however many you're gonna get, just absolutely run over your opponent.
Just demolish them and demoralize them. Something else with the sack outlets, there's Alter Dimension, then we also have Spawning Pit as sort of redundancy, and it makes tokens itself. Anyway, so you can just, if you untap with Kessid Cage Breakers, just sack your whole team and attack. That's probably good enough already. And if it's not, let's say you have enough to KO one person, well, you can use the rest, if you have Alter Dimension, to just mill somebody else.
Is that good?
It is game breaking. There's also Return of the Wild Speaker. It was already in the deck. It's a nice little overrun / if we have a big token like a Kraken or one of our creatures with ETBs, we can draw 7 or 8 cards.
Yeah.
It's multi-purpose.
Exactly, yeah. It's a win con that, because we do go so wide. This deck goes wider than most decks. There are a lot of go wide decks. It's a pretty common strategy in EDH. This does it as good as any of those, and we're on a $50 budget.
This deck is so good at making tokens, it would be strictly worse on Arena because you'd hit the token cap.
You would hit the cap so fast.
But that's the meat of the deck, but we also have to upgrade the lands. You can't ignore the lands when you upgrade a Precon. So let's go over the stuff we cut. Study Hall, Temple of the False God. This is a given. These cards are bad. We're not going to play them in these Precons. Opal Palace, I see what you're doing. And Llanowar Reborn. We're not playing +1/+1 counters. Get out. Quandrix Campus, tap land, Lonely Sandbar, and Tranquil Thicket. I've kind of been waffling on whether or not to cut these. This deck does not need these tap lands, and we're adding so many more that I don't want a critical mass of tap lands to slow us down. And then just 3 basic lands to cut. So what do we add?
We added Yara Mirror Lake, which is a clone land. So that's awesome. It's making a token copy of a creature in play, something our deck wants to do on a land. At a Rimewood Falls, which we've talked about these. These are snow lands. Throwing them in every one of these now.
This one's actively relevant because of Wood Elves.
Oh, yes, that's true. And Ash Barrens, it cycles, goes get you a basic. And Colony Garden, which makes us a nice token.
Or 2. So if we want to have one of those turns where we start out with I'll make 6 or 7 guys, they don't board wipe us, and then we just slam Enray's Forerunners and kill someone. This can represent a couple damage, which I think is worth the tap land.
Yeah. Also, we can sacrifice these to do other stuff. We have lots of little synergies with these tokens.
Yes. And lastly, the MDFCs. We always add MDFCs, especially to budget decks. So we added Kazandu Mammoth, just to find basically a 3-mana 5/5 when you need it. Colony Ambush, Fight Spell if we have a bigger token and we want to take something out. This is kind of a 1-for-1 removal spell. And then Tangled Florahedron, if you want to ramp on turn 2, or you need an elemental for Risen Reef, this is going to be your guy.
Yep. MDFCs, we talk about all the time. They're so great, and they just 1-for-1 with lands, and it feels great.
Yeah, they smooth your deck out. They make it so you're less likely to screw and less likely to flood.
Yes. What other card does that?
Not too many, but let's get to the stats of the deck overall.
So $50 budget as usual. Spent $48.18. Damn, we're good. So damn good.
So gosh darn friggin' good. The overall average CMC or average mana value of the Precon was 3.86, and we brought it down a little bit to 3.65. Going to be a little easier to cast your spells now. 46 changes total, almost half the deck. I changed 45% of the non-land cards.
I mean, one of the biggest issues, this deck just wasn't focused. There's no, it was, like I said, I'm not joking when I say I honestly think they were planning on doing this with +1/+1 counters, so it did multiple things, but they didn't go that route, so we ended up with this super unfocused, weird deck. It's like, why are there all these counters cards? Why are these tokens entering with counters? There's not an upside to that.
Where's the payoff?
There was no payoff for it in our deck, and sure, I think fractals are unique, and they could have done things with them, but they didn't in this deck. They were just there for seemingly no reason.
Yes, so happy to cut that stuff. If I were you building this deck, I'd say, hey, let's build towards the unique part, which is the tokens part. This commander says nothing about +1/+1 counters, so I wouldn't kind of dilute my deck with the +1/+1 counter cards. It kind of seemed like a split personality thing, except there was no payoffs for it. But I think did a great job, and that is the deck.
That is the deck. Thank you all for watching. Special shout outs to all of our patrons. We love you all as much as we can without making you uncomfortable. You guys are known as the Poopy Babies.
Yes, we have a tidbit about our lives coming, but first we got to show you the TCG link in the description.
Almost got that right.
I almost did. Got to tell you about it. It's a link you can click. Will take you to the ads for this deck. All the cards we added, if you want to buy them or other cards, navigate where you want, check out, and we get a kickback on the order, but you spend nothing extra while also giving us money directly, basically. It's crazy.
You're a Magic player, you're going to buy Magic cards. Buy them on TCGplayer and you help support this channel. I mean, you were going to spend money anyway. If you're going to buy the Magic cards, do it through the link. You help us, and we appreciate it very much, and we say thank you.
Yeah, a lot of people are looking for ways to go support the channel that are beyond just subscribing, and also, I'm not going to ask you to spend money out of pocket. That's what Patreon's for. If you want to do that, you can.
And we appreciate it.
But if you don't want to spend money, you can just spend money on yourself. The next time you'd order cards, hit up any one of our TCG links, and then check out from there. It's just going to be free money for us, like a tip.
Yes, exactly. So that's everything. That's our shoutouts.
Except for the tidbit about our lives, which we promised last episode, which was yesterday. We're going to tell you officially how to play Infinite Mana Pack Wars the right way.
Okay, so Infinite Mana Pack Wars. You open a pack. You don't look at any of the cards.
Don't.
You can pull out the land if you know what the land is. You also pull out the token. Shuffle it up real good. Make sure that you don't know where anything is. put it down. Both players draw a card.
Your hand size is 1.
Your hand size, your starting hand size is 1.
Yeah.
You can have as many. There is technically no maximum hand size, but that never comes up.
Because you only have 15 cards in your deck.
And you have infinite mana, which is super important to this. So you draw 1. The first player gets to play 1, and then the other player who goes second, which is an advantage in this, gets to draw a card. So they start with 2 cards. And you just go back and forth, and you play with infinite mana. You have infinite mana of any kind.
And 10 life.
And 10 life. And also, any card, say it's a Glittering Frost in a Kaldheim pack, that cycles. You just put it in the graveyard, you draw a new card because it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, any card with no text. So in a world with infinite mana, counter target spell unless they pay 3, that doesn't do anything. So you would cycle it, and if you don't know, it's a pretty casual format. You can be like, hey guys, can I cycle this? And they'd be like, yeah, or no. It's really, the stakes are pretty low. But I like doing this if you're playing for something small, if you just want to open packs in a fun way. Get your infinite mana going. There's a lot of fun, it's really fun to play with this. Sometimes you just have a janky, crappy common creature, but it says 1 and a red, it gives +1/+0. It is infinite power.
Yeah.
Just a lethal threat.
Yeah, there's the Ice-Hide Troll in Kaldheim does it. There's the Flying Hellstorm Angel.
Yeah, the Valkyrie.
Yeah, that also just wins games. Is there any other things that pump infinitely?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's also just turn 1 kills. All right, Turgid's Lantern, you're dead.
Turgid's Lantern, activate infinite times.
There was a Phoenix in Theros Beyond Death that just had haste and fire breathing. Just kill somebody on turn 1 with it.
Yeah.
So much funny stuff. And the stakes are so low, you can joke around with stuff like that. I lost on turn 1. It's not a bad beat. You opened a booster pack. You had fun.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The whole point is just to open a booster pack in a fun way.
Yeah. And so that's how you play.
And that's our tidbit, and that's our video. Peace out, Tribe Scout.